OK, welcome back to the Sunday Footy Show as we get set now for a little bit of Matthew time.
We thought we'd take a look, TJ, at their deep dive. So we're not going to get any footy this round. We thought we'd take a look at some of the games that would have been played and some of the history of those games. And we're going to start with Carlton v the Western Bulldogs, who would have played yesterday. Brownie, you were a Carlton supporter growing up, and that famous moment with Mark Arcieri. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, well, I was a massive Carlton supporter, and they played at the Western Oval this day, and there's Chris Grant there. But they didn't score a goal until very, very late, Carlton. At one point, nobody thought they were going to kick a goal. Here's Mark Arcieri, former North Melbourne player. That is late in the game. Before that, they'd only kicked 10 behinds. He kicked the first goal. That was with 3 minutes to go before full time, and everybody thought 44. They were going to not score a goal that day.
Yeah, it was 57 to 10 behinds Carlton were, as you just touched on at that point in time, and saved huge embarrassment for the Carlton Football Club. I want to talk about, we've missed a massive showdown, Cornsey, Port Adelaide v Adelaide, and a famous moment was one of our best mates, Angus Monfries, in this incident here. This goal was amazing, but talk us through some of the great players and this moment in particular.
Yeah, this was the best one I ever played in. This bounce here, look at this bounce. You'd have to watch that 10 times for that to go through, and then Chad Wingard kicks his fifth as a 19-year-old to win after the siren. That was extraordinary. Last one, I reckon, at Footy Park as well before the move to Adelaide Oval. But just some of the names, like, without being biased, my brother and the work that he did in showdowns, not only in the media but also on the field and stirring up the Crows fans there, is a genuine hatred between those two teams, and that's Motlop at Adelaide Oval. Just the rivalry, how close the two teams have been.
So it's not manufactured?
It's definitely not manufactured. And this one here, which the Crows cheated their way to a victory here, where Josh Jenkins hits the post, and he even said after the game that he hit the post, but there was no score review and the Crows won. But from the Phil Walsh game and the tragedy of that to the showdown, the emotion, it's just one of the great rivalries in the AFL.
And Cornsey, the emotional toll, the build-up to that, is it as big as a final, would you say, in that regard?
Yeah, I think just the atmosphere, and I think being in Adelaide and the two supporter groups going head-to-head and the bragging rights and all of that. So, yeah, it is great, and we missed one last night, but they'll be back.
Hey, Bill, Geelong would have played the Gold Coast Suns at Geelong.
Yep.
And Gary Ablett Jr., you were talking about this in the pre-show meeting, about the fact that if we don't get another season up and going, does he come back next year?
Well, he probably doesn't. He was going to retire this year. He went on, of course. Is he the best player this century in the AFL competition?
Yes.
We'll go around the panel in a minute.
Are you saying from 2000?
Well, that'd be this century. So I'm going to ask you all, so have a good think about it. But 346 games also with Geelong and the Gold Coast Suns. So he needs another 4 for 350. 2 premierships, 2 Brownlows, 8 All-Australians. Is he, the little master, the best player this century in the AFL, Kane?
I don't even think it's close, Bill, because he played in an era where he actually got tagged. Midfielders now, Dustin Martin, he doesn't get tagged. None of the midfielders get tagged now. He got tagged every week and did what he did getting tagged. So I don't even think it's close, so yes.
Hard to go past it.
Close. I still think Lance Franklin in this century has been just as good. Obviously, he doesn't have the accolades of the Brownlows and all that sort of stuff, but getting people through the gates and obviously doing what he did week after week as a centre-half forward, I think Lance goes close.
Good, Cornella. What about you, Lordo?
Ablett for me too, Bill. Yep. And Damo, we're about to go to you.
Sorry, Damo.
Yeah, I'm with Brownie and Lance Franklin just for the goal-kicking power, but you could throw up a few others. Judd would come to mind strongly as well if you want to have the full conversation.
And Damo, I wanted to come to you on the injuries. So in round one, we saw some big injuries to 2 or 3 players. So how do clubs manage them through this period?
Yeah, it's difficult. We heard Jack Siebel, didn't we, Lordo, talk about his knee injury and how he's got to do it old school back at home in regional Victoria. And look, Cruiser's going to go down for 16 weeks. I mean, he may still play round 2. 16 weeks may actually allow him to play round 2. So it benefits teams who got injuries early in the season. Steph Martin from Brisbane Lions is another one. And look, I just imagine at some stage of the next couple of weeks, couple of months, that someone may just make a phone call to Alex Rance from Richmond and say, listen, we've got a very different situation now. We know football was not part of your life when you made your decision to retire late last year, but have you got another 16 games in you? It's a conversation that I think should be asked.
What's changed for Alex, though?
Well, everything's changed for everyone, hasn't it, TJ? Everything's changed for everyone. Again, I'd be surprised if the phone call wasn't made, given these are now extraordinary circumstances that we're all dealing with.
Lloydie, the Bombers went into this season, everybody thought they were underdone. They had a lot of injuries going into that pre-season. Are they the biggest I guess, winner of this. Obviously, there's no winners, but in terms of getting all their players back on the park, because they looked impressive against Fremantle.
No, I reckon we're back on a level playing field, everyone across, because we just don't know. It's up to your self-discipline now. So I think the most disciplined individuals and senior group wins this premiership. I want to ask you about the Western Bulldogs. If you are Luke Beveridge, Bill,
Yeah.
Brownie, what do you do? You're pounded in that final by Toby Green and the Giants. They come for round one, and then Collingwood belled them.
Then they're the most spruik side
team.
pre-season, and we're very ordinary round one.
The thing now is they've got 3, maybe even 4 months to think about that, and that's obviously going to play on their minds for a long time. Normally it's a 6 or 7 day turnaround, but everybody now is going to play the Bulldogs and go, OK, we need to be physical against them. We need to beat them up because they're very good on the outside. But at the moment, that final last year, plus 42 down in contested footy. Last week against Collingwood, plus 30 in a shortened game. But they also got smashed in the uncontested possession, which they're very good at too. So they'd have some alarm bells ringing at the moment, but they've got some time to fix it. But they're not all together to fix it. So they were the big loser out of round one, I think.
And the thing about it is, what I'm disappointed is Collingwood looked unbelievable, and at this stage are my best side in it.
What about the Giants?
The Giants, Richmond and West Coast. I think there's four teams that looked exceptional on the weekend. And to you, Cornsey, I'd be concerned about Stuart Dew in a sense because they have so much positivity through the Marsh Cup. You rock up for round one when it's the real deal. You score 29 points and you are embarrassed. They should have lost by 100 in that game. So again, the players start sitting back and going, OK, we went well in the Marsh Cup, but was it going to be one of those years again?
And I think your point about the experienced sides are going to benefit from this layoff. Well, they're the most inexperienced side, and they're thinking, well, is it just going to be another one of those years? So to score no goals in the second half and served up what they served up was extremely disappointing.
The club that had the biggest upside from round one, I think, was Hawthorn. Everyone's thinking, does Alistair Clarkson bring something new to the table? Where are they? Are they going to just float around that 8th, 9th, 10th? But that midfield now with Wingard, Mitchell back, you've got O'Meara running through there and Henderson. I think they were the big winners from round one.
What about Port Adelaide?
I just said I thought Hawthorn were the big winners from round one.
John O'Patton.
Just on Port Adelaide, the big talking point coming into the season was Ken Hinkley and his contract. He has to be the coach next year. Now, Damo, I'll be
They're not going to make the 8.
in your take now. Well, the season might not go ahead, so then he has to be the coach. And the finals, Damo, might be extended to 10, and it'd be hard to see Port Adelaide not qualifying in the top 10.
Yeah, and I don't even go a step further. Even if they somehow miss that top 10, I would argue that people like Ken Hinkley are going to become as crucial as any individual when it comes to resurrecting these footy clubs going into 2021. So I think the character that he's always displayed and the person that he is, I would think it's a lock that he's there regardless of performance this year, given that there's going to be stressful times for everyone.
Some positive
Lloydie,
stuff.
some positivity there from Damo. He's a very positive person at the best of times, all right? So, I'll tell you, that was very good.
Thank you.
Are we going to do that next week?
Yeah, I reckon we should.
Well done, Lordo.
Well done.
Thank you.
Big round of applause for Lloydie. OK, good stuff.